Hello YouTubers, it's Pete, it's 2025. I thought I ought to give you another update. What can you see? Hopefully some nice pair of wings, well, a wing. Um, yeah, so I've finally constructed the wing. So today's video is going to be about that. Um, I'll take you through the process and challenges and things I've had to change because my model is clearly going to be heavier than the standard plan, which was a chuck glider with none of this radio control. Obviously that's added weight, so I've had to strengthen things up a bit, which unfortunately adds its own weight. But hey, we are where we are. So let me subtract this into two pieces. Let me move this away. So that's the fuselage, and we'll concentrate on the wing. So the wing is made up of three sections: a wingtip, a centre section, and also another wingtip. Now the wingtips have a thing called dihedral. Can you see that angle here? There's an angle on each end of the wing, so that's to help the model regain its when it turns it goes back hopefully to a flat position automatically. If you didn't have this dihedral, that wouldn't happen if it was just a flat wing. So these are useful pieces. Now the dihedral could be in the middle of the wing. It is on most aircraft, but on this particular model they've done it at the tips, but it achieves the same ends. So let's just go through what I've changed. So things such as, if we take these two bits of balsa here, this is the balsa that the kit came with, and can you see the end section there? If I point, yeah, it's very about a 16th square. It's very narrow, and I was worried that that wouldn't take the weight of the aircraft. Now it's heavier than the original plan. I think the original plan said it would be up here somewhere 2¼ ounces, and I think I'm going to be more like 6 or 7. So once it's covered, so I've had to make these stringers, as they're called, they go through here, bigger. And so what I've done, I've gone to this size balsa, which I've cut out of a sheet. And can you see the, if we look at, compare the end profiles, this one here is far bigger than this one here in terms of length versus width. So yeah, probably twice as much, which is a bit of a square law going on. So this feels a lot stronger to me than this, which bends easily. So so I'm hoping this thicker balsa will strengthen the centre of the wing, because it's the wing that carries the loading of the aircraft. All the weight of the aircraft is carried by the wing. So I've strengthened these stringers and made them double the size to the original plan, and also I've done the same in the wing tips as well. So the leading and trailing edges I've left the same size, and they still need to be sanded to give them the correct profile. So rounded front wing, and the trailing edge, this ought to be, oh sorry, I'm not on camera, this edge here ought to be like a triangle, so this needs sanding down as well before I cover it. So I'll ensure I do that. Just going back to the wing, that's the centre section. The two wing tips were made up on the plan here and here. I cut out from paper some ribs. Can you see one there? There's a rib. So I put that onto the balsa, cut round it with my scalpel, and that's what gave me the rib shape R1. There's two R1s, two R2s, two R3s, and two R4s. So they were cut out first. I've changed the wing tips slightly. Those observant amongst you will notice this wingtip is a lot fatter and more substantial. So I've done that again for strengthening. The plan said it could have a gusset in this corner with a skinnier wingtip, but I've often found when my models land, if I'm not too clever at the flying, they hit the wingtips. So I want to make sure the wingtips were a little bit more solid and could take a bit of a bashing. So I've strengthened both wingtips. It's similar to what I did on the back on the trailing edges. If you remember here, I made these wider and more substantial too. So it's kind of, but the only bad thing about this, guess what? It adds to the weight. So again, I've shot myself in the foot, but I feel that it feels stronger to me. So it's more likely to be able to take an impact. I don't know what size of impact. Clearly, it won't cater for all use cases, but hopefully it will make it survive slightly longer. Yeah, so that's my wing tips. Another issue with the wing tips is these ribs here. I don't know if you can see that on the plan. Those wing tips are slanted to this angle, so they give you a template that you cut off the plan. It's in the center of the plan here, so I've made that out of cardboard, and that effectively goes against these two here. So they were slanted so that when you fit the wingtip, instead of them being orthogonal, i.e. parallel to each other, it puts it up at a 15-degree angle, and this is the wonderful 15 degrees from the plan. So that's ensured that I get a dihedral of 2.5 inches, which, oh dear, what's that in new money? Well, 2 inches is 50 mil, half an inch is about 12.5, so about 62.5 millimeters of height to the end of the wingtips, to the plane that the wing sat on. So yeah, I've measured them both with my wonderful ruler, and they've both come out okay. So that's good. So what's next? I hear you all ask. And the next step, obviously, I've hinted at I need to do rounding of the leading edges and some sanding on the trailing edges. So I'll do that, and also the wing tips. The other thing that's next is how will this wing fit to the aircraft? Now, on the plan, it talks about an elastic band holding it on. So in fact, if I go to the box, you can see here on the box, hopefully, there's a cross on the top of the wing. So that's the elastic bands holding it to the fuselage. I think my preferred method, from having crashed many aircraft before, is to actually, at this point here, where the point of the pliers is to put maybe some doweling. Here's some doweling here that I've managed to find. Cut that to length and put that through the fuselage, so it gives something for the elastic bands to grip onto. So that's another little task to work out how to do that. Now in my case, that's not exactly straightforward, because if you remember rightly, I strengthened all this up to take the weight of the surveys. That means my putting through of the dowel is going to be more difficult, because it will hit these fatter stringers. It was just not ideal. So I've got to find a way of feeding that through. But clearly the weight is going to be trying to pull the top of these stringers off, and I don't want that to happen. So I might have to reinforce the corners so that it can tolerate the strength of the elastic bands. But leave that with me. I will come up with a solution, I'm sure. I have done on other aircraft. As I say, there's nothing on the plan to advise you what to do. In the instructions, they just say cross the elastic bands and jobs are good. But I've had it before where, if you're not careful, the wings, when they're mounted, as they say in the instructions, if the wing gets hit and takes this angle as it's flying, it then doesn't fly straight anymore, as you can imagine. So you need to keep the wings orthogonal to the fuselage, and the only way of doing that is to make sure when you secure it down, it's secured firmly so that it can't get knocked out of place in the first place. So sorry to go on about it, but it's caught me out more than once. So I'm gonna try for it not to catch me out this time. Okay, that's about it. So yeah, the wings were relatively straightforward to build, apart from the additional strengthening that I've put in because I've got a heavier model. So that's that. So the next part, I can't wait, I'm getting quite excited, is to use my wonderful solar film and cover the wings with this solar film and the fuselage. So once that's done, we'll be ready for the maiden flight. I won't give you a date because you know I'm terribly slow at these things, but and I know it will fly or crash this year, but rest assured I'll make sure it's videoed whenever I do it so that you're kept on board. You can see the maiden flight, hopefully. You'll see whether it crashes or goes in heavy. If it does, I'll repair it. Hopefully I'll be able to trim it out, and then eventually the plan is by the summer my daughter, providing it can fly and take all this extra weight, my daughter will throw it off Westbury Whitehorse and then we'll see what happens up there. Hopefully I don't need a too windy day, but I don't need a day with no wind either, so I'd something in between. But we shall find out, but we're getting closer. So for those subscribers who've stuck with me, please continue to do so. I will get there one way or the other. I've thoroughly enjoyed the project anyway. I can recommend it to anyone. I've kind of gone back to my youth making balsa wood models here, and it's been wonderful. It's been lovely escapism, and it's all gone together reasonably well. I'm quite surprised I've retained some of the skills. But yeah, it doesn't seem too difficult to me. Says Pete, throwing the aircraft in it, and it goes into the ground rather heavy. But we'll find out. We'll find out. I think that's all part of the fun of modelling. I'm definitely more up for the build than the flying. However, if it flies as well, I'll probably have a tear in my eye. But yeah, if it crashes in a way, great. I can make my next thing. So I'll cue the next project kind of thing. So okay, thanks for your attention. Yeah, keep watching and subscribing. Yeah, and I'll get back to you once I've got it covered. Will be my next video. Thank you very much. Cheers and bye.